Welcome to my lesson on power chords. We're going to do kind of a couple lessons in one, and the first one is just the most basic concept of what power chords are, the thing that'll get you playing your favorite rock tunes pretty quickly. But then what we're going to do is we're going to look at what I consider the chain of power chords across the fretboard. So we're going to reference some of the Cage System lesson material that we've worked on in the past, but what we're going to do is we're going to give you a way of seeing not only different places to play these power chords all over the fretboard, but different textures, different sounds you can use, especially when layering guitars or trying to come up with parts that are a little bit more unique. If you look in the video description below, there's going to be a PDF of this. You go to the website, you click, it looks like it's a shopping cart, but it's free. We don't take your information. All you got to do is just download the PDF and print it out, and you've got the materials there. We'll also have the stuff on the screen. If you like this video and want more content like this and want to help support the channel, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, give us a thumbs up, all that stuff that people ask you to do on YouTube. We also have a store now. If you want to get t-shirts, we got Jack t-shirts, we got mugs, we got all the kind of junk that people sell that's kind of fun to have. So check that out as well. And I'm also writing on medium.com about guitar and music related stuff. So all of those links are in the video description down below. So the first thing is, let's talk about what a power chord actually is. If we're really going to be specific about it, a power chord is a triad, which is a three-note chord, which we've learned in previous lessons. The triads are major, minor, diminished, and augmented chords, but we leave out the third note. So we have the root and the perfect fifth, or the fifth note of a major scale. Because we have so few notes in this, when we add distortion, all those harmonic overtones aren't getting too weird sounding. If I was to play, let's add some crunch here. If I was to go with a nice chunky power chord, it sounds pretty full. If I was just to play octaves, it's a little hollow, right? So that extra note, these notes together, that gives us that really thick sound that works great for riffs, especially with crunch, but for other things too. If we were to play a major chord with all three notes of the triad, those notes start getting kind of crunchy sounding. Not the worst thing, but it's hard to actually make that stuff sound kind of heavy and big and rock and roll. So when we're trying to paint with broader strokes on the guitar, the power chord's kind of a cool thing. And we have other voicings. We can play those power chords, like you saw in the beginning of the video, in a variety of places. And that's one of the things that we're going to be showing you, is really how all this stuff lays out. You're going to find, you'll hear it on my guitar, sometimes your intonation won't really be accurate enough to support all of these chord voicings up and down without a little bit of retuning. That's not abnormal. This guitar has actually been kind of beaten to death on gigs for the last couple of years and hasn't gotten an intonation in a little while. So I apologize for the intonation now. You'll probably experience a little bit something like that when you do this. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to talk about is the fact that these power chords all come out of your Cage System roots. The first one comes out of your open E chord. From that E chord, we just take the bottom three strings, and that gives the root, the fifth, and then the root again of that chord. There's also another power chord you could play here in the upper octave. You play root on the fourth string, and then the first two strings open. That's a great, like, Eric Johnson style kind of power chord. We'll talk about that one later. For right now, we're going to start with this one. If we're to move it up, the easiest way to do this is put your first finger on the sixth string on the first fret, third finger on the fifth string on the third fret, and little finger, fourth finger on the fourth string on the third fret. That gives us root, fifth, and then octave. And you can move that as long as you know what your note names are going up that sixth string. That's F, here's a G, so this is a G power chord. Here's a B flat, here's A. Works all up and down that string set. Now if we go to the second one in this grouping that we're doing right now, just to make this easy for us, we're going to start with an open A chord. In that open A chord, the bottom three strings, which are the fifth string open, the fourth string on the second fret, and the third string on the second fret, we actually get the power chord out of that root, five, and then root again. So if I was to make that a movable shape, root on the fifth string on the first fret, the third finger, which is going to be playing the fifth of the chord, is going to be on the fourth string on the third fret, and your pinky's going to be playing the octave, or the root again, on the third string on the third fret. So it looks just like the shape from up there. All right, that gives us a really easy way to remember this stuff. And this is why this is one of the first chord movable chord shapes that most people learn how to play is because you can play all 12 chords in 2 different places on the fretboard. I can play F here, and then I can find the F on this string and play it right there. The next one we're going to do is based out of your open D chord. And out of that open D, the 4th string, 3rd string, and 2nd string are the notes that are going to give us the power chord out of that shape. So if I was to make this a movable chord shape, I'll put my 1st finger on the 1st fret, 3rd finger on the, and that's the 4th string, 3rd finger on the 3rd fret on the 3rd string, and my little finger, my 4th finger, is going to be on the 4th fret on the 2nd string. So it looks just like these two, except the pinky's got to stretch out one. And that comes from the D shape. Now one cool thing that you'll start seeing is, here's E in the E shape, the open one. Alright, and then we also have the same root is available for the D shape. So here's E, and then here's E 1 octave higher. And then these notes are also the same as when I showed you the other part of that open E chord, where we're playing the open strings. That chord are the same. And then if I was to come up here to the A shape that we were just doing, those are the same notes. Now I'm skipping around a little bit, but I kind of wanted you to see how these things attach together. So we're going to look at the open C chord. And out of this, we have the root on the 3rd finger on the 5th string, 3rd fret. The open 3rd string is the 5th, and then the octave here is the 1st finger on the 2nd string, 1st fret. If I was to move that up, it's a little bit of a weird shape. Like if I wanted to move it up to D, I'd have my pinky on the 5th fret on the 5th string, my 1st finger on the 2nd fret on the 3rd string, and my 2nd finger on the 3rd fret on the 2nd string. I'm actually picking these with just my fingers like that. So if I was to move this up to E, this would be the shape here, and this is kind of the missing link in what I was just doing. If I go back to the open E chord, I do the higher octave from that, and then I play the D shape. I can now use these 2 fingers as part of the C shape, and I'm still playing the E power chord. And then I've got the A shape in that power chord. Alright, and you can hear these are all the same chords. They just sound a little bit different timbre-wise because of the thickness of the strings and the length of the string as it's vibrating as we move up the fretboard. If we do the G chord, open G, we've actually got 2 power chord shapes built into that. We've got where you're playing the 6th string on the 3rd fret, and then the 4th and 3rd strings open. So if I wanted to make that a movable shape, it's a little bit of a stretch. But I can put my pinky here on the 5th fret for the A, and then the rest of that chord would be on the 2nd fret, on the 3rd and 4th strings. So if I wanted to move this up to E, I could come up here to the 12th fret, which is where the double dot is on most of your guitars, with my pinky, and I'll put my 1st finger on the 9th fret. You hear my intonation not being very happy about this. But this continues on this pattern. Remember we did the E shape down here. We do it with the D shape. These are still all E chords. Here's the C shape. Here is the A shape. And then here's the bottom part of that G shape. And then we're back to the E shape, but now we're actually playing it with the whole thing fretted. So this will actually walk all the way up to here. And it's all the same chord. So you can start memorizing that. And even if we were to start like here on G, for instance, G, 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 G. Any place you know one of these, you know them all. The other part of this open G chord is the top 3 strings. Open G, 3rd fret on the 2nd string, 3rd fret on the 1st string. And I can make that kind of a power chord shape like this. 1st finger on the 1st fret, 3rd string. I'm just barring my little finger, my pinky, on the 4th fret on the 1st and 2nd strings. If I move that up to E, it's up here. So I've taken my chain of all those chords we've done to this point, moved up to here, and then but then I can come back into the G pattern, play this octave. So I've got root 5 root of the E chord there, and then this is the same as when we played the very first one down here with your open 1st and 2nd strings, and then your 4th fret. Alright, so we got this guy, and then we just start repeating. There's the E shape, here's the D shape an octave higher, and then here's the C shape, And then here's the A shape. That's all I got here on this guitar. So the idea with this is that you're basically learning how to chain each of these shapes together so you can see where the same chord is pretty much anywhere on the fretboard. We really want you to understand where to play anything anywhere. If you can do that, learning new music is much easier. Creating your own music or creating your own parts for existing music is also much easier. But it also helps you learn the layout of the fretboard. If you're going to solo, you want to improvise better. Anything that you want to do, if you know the layout of the fretboard, you're in pretty good shape. So if you haven't done the cage system lesson, we've got one. The very first one in this series is the cage system, where we talk about root patterns and major scales. And then we talk about different kinds of triads in the second and third lessons. If you did those 3 lessons and then came back to this one, it would actually make a lot of sense if you haven't done that already. Once you've done that, maybe take a song that you know that you're really familiar with and see how many different ways that you can play one of the chord progressions or one of the riffs. I'm going to go through one idea here really quick for you just to demonstrate. My sample chord progressions can be E5, G5, D5, A5. I can also go E5, G5, D5, A5, E5, G5, D5, A5, E5, G5, D5, A5, E5, G5, D5, A5, and so on. That is just playing those chords in one place on the fretboard. You can mix and match these shapes however you want to for whatever sounds that you want. But I kind of want you to see that if you take little chunks or little boxes of the fretboard and you just try and figure out ways of playing within those boxes, you're going to start learning these chord shapes a lot faster. I hope you guys enjoyed this lesson and found it useful. There's going to be a series of links underneath, not just the PDF for this for you to print out, but other lessons in this series. We've got some new ones coming up on shell chord voicings and some different ways to play rhythm guitar, as well as being able to utilize this stuff for improvisation and soloing. So please, once again, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, hit the bell, give us a thumbs up, do all those things to help support us, and look in the links below. Thanks a lot.